Island Historic Preservation Conservancy. So I want to, first of all, thank a lot of people, and when I get finished with thanking everybody, then I'll ask you for some applause to help me do that thanking. People that made this festival possible. First of all, the Steak Pit, for this wonderful venue and the delicious refreshments and extra work and planning that went into providing this space for us to be here this summer. All the musicians and speakers who've taken part in all of the festival nights, the WAHS and the WHA members who've worked hard to write the grant, contact the speakers, the musicians, arrange for the dates, the location, get the posters made, distributed, make sure the event is well publicized, and all those other details that need to be done. And thanking the Washburn folks and our visitors for supporting the History Festival with your attendance. So thank you, everybody. I have some reminders too. The first reminder is that tonight's presentation will conclude the summer festival season. So that means before we know it, it will be time to start planning for the 6th annual Tony Woyak History Festival, which will begin in January. So if anyone has a special topic they would like to hear about or present, please see one of the WAHS or WHA board members, because we really appreciate your suggestions. There are lots of good stories left to tell. Also, this year we had DVDs made of all of the presentations, and those DVDs will be for sale. So if you're interested in any of the past presentations from this 2016 year, way back till January and forward, up till tonight, just let one of the board members know. They will be for sale. And then finally, I'm very, very pleased to introduce tonight's musician. First of all, Ms. Yasmin Bowers. And also tonight's speakers, Ms. Karen Spears-Novacek, assisted by Ms. Sherry Grant. All three of these women are part of the history and heritage of Washburn. All three grew up in Washburn and have strong connections of family and friends here. And all three have moved away from Washburn at one point or another. And perhaps it's not a coincidence that all three chose to spend at least some of that time in warmer climate locations like California, Arizona, Las Vegas. And Yasmin has just returned from a musical learning opportunity in Cuba. So how exciting is that? Yasmin will also be singing and playing more of her music following the program tonight, so please stick around for that. And Karen will be speaking tonight about members of her Washburn family, the Robinsons. Now, as the promotional information indicates on your brochures there, you can read it, but the Robinson family members included a newspaper owner, a mayor, a barber, a pianist, and chairman of both the Republican and Democratic county committees. That's going to be interesting. And the owner of a speakeasy. So Sherry is also a member of the Robinson family, and she is here to make sure that Karen gets the facts straight. So please help me welcome these creative and talented daughters of Washburn who make their hometown proud.
Thank you very much, Jenny, and thank you for inviting me to talk about the Robinson family. 130 years and 3 generations.
Karen.
Excuse me, I think I hear my name being called. Just a moment, and I'll return.
Oh, we're haunted.
You want to go do a performance?
Yeah. Would you like to sit?
I have a chair right here, so I'm just not very sure what I'm doing, so I'm going to stand for a while.
Yeah, there were two seats.
I just got one piece of that.
By the way, that voice that you were it's not the one that went there, it's the younger one.
Oh my goodness. You should get rid of one of these. It's probably not quite her style. This is going to be a little dream.
Well, I don't know, but she also said Tom Lehrer started killing pigeons in the park.
Well, of course I do. Yes.
No, not there. Ran toward. Maybe we'll have to, if there was a tornado happening.
So, what do you think this is all about, you guys?
Karen,
What do you think this is all about?
If Yasmin starts playing, then we'll know it's
I bet she is. Changing her clothes.
Should be one of the, should probably be one of the caregivers, like grandma.
Yep. Here, I bet you're right.
No, they got that.
Those of you who have pink do the right thing to wear tonight. Yes, I am Cleo Grant. And I love the pink, ladies. Thank you so much. Well, welcome. And I thought you might like a first-hand account of the family. I am next to the youngest in the third generation, and I guess I need a mic. So let me start over again. I am Cleo Grant Robinson, and I am the youngest in the third generation. I'm a bit more flamboyant than many in my English heritage, but I'm best known for my parties, my love of martinis, and pork chops. Also, my wonderfully soft skin. Thanks to my friend John, and Thorsten isn't here, but yes, you are. You would remember the goose grease.
Yeah, my dad used to save it for regular down.
It does marvelous. Check out Sherry, my daughter. She's here tonight and she has the same skin texture. Well, enough about me. More later, of course. Let me show you. Ooh, you're gonna have to do it this way. Let's see. I have one more picture of me, of course. And then there will be more about me later. The Robinsons. Three pictures of the Robinsons. Probably the best picture of them. My grandfather, Matthew, was born in York, England in 1846. Where as a young man, he had a sugar refining business. My grandmother, Eliza, was born in Canada in 1852. They lived in Canada, and my grandfather had a sawmill. Unfortunately, that sawmill burned, and they lost everything. They were penniless. They heard that there were lots of jobs in Wisconsin. And so initially, they emigrated to Eau Claire. But in 1887, they came to Washburn with their 6 children. Their trip from Eau Claire was quite an adventure, coming in a wagon. There was a heavy rainstorm, and while crossing the river, a tree fell on the wagon, just behind the horses, and broke the yoke of the wagon. Well, of course the horses bolted, and there sat the wagon in the middle of a rainstorm. My grandfather and his brother had to leave my grandmother, my father, and my aunts and uncles while they retrieved the horses. Obviously, they did make it. One can't turn pages with gloves on, so my friend Sandra will help me with that. I want page 2, thank you. Matt, my grandfather, worked at a lumber mill and was a member of the Vessel Loaders Union. Washburn in the 1890s was described as follows. It's a young man's town, not many gray hairs to be seen. It was a happy-go-lucky existence, a lively sawmill town with lumberjacks roving about, looking for an outlet for their overflowing souls and their rising temperatures. There were 25 saloons, an open-door gambling houses, and other disorderly establishments. Working hours were long and wearisome with no rights for the working class. $2 a day was a handsome wage. There was some crime. In 1889, an illegal liquor vendor plying his trade on his yacht was fined $120 for practicing his smart game and given 4 months in jail. When grandfather Matt died in 1918, he was described as follows: one of the most kindly men in the city, a lover of his home, a faithful and industrious worker. Their 6 children were Bert, Florence, John, Bessie, Will, and Dan. There's little information about John, who moved to Oregon and lived there his entire life, and Florence, who after marrying, moved to Madison. Let's see what the remaining 4 children did. The home of the Washburn Times newspaper. In recent years, it has become the County Journal. It's something else now, we know. Newspapers abounded in Washburn in the 1800s. The first newspaper in Washburn was the Itemizer, beginning in 1884. A quote from the paper: "We sing the praises of a new oasis in the wilderness of Norway and white pines." In 1887, a second newspaper, The News, began. In 1892, John E. Jones began the Washburn Times. Around 1914, Mr. Jones reported that an old friend brought a boy to him and asked him if he would employ him at the paper. I offered a wage just about as small as the child himself. The child responded that he would like $1 more a week, and he got it. The business ideas of little Willie were very good. He started out as a printer's devil, and in 1918 purchased the Times. Uncle Will's editorial policy was staunch support of conservative Republican ideas and he served as the chairman of the Bayfield County Republican Committee. The Times was described as a bulwark of American liberties in the county. Will died in 1932. This is a picture of Uncle Bert, the oldest. He was a barber in Washburn and Ashland. His son Harry was mayor of Washburn in the late 1920s. He was president of the golf club. Yes, we had a golf course then in Washburn down by the lakefront. This is a picture of my father, Dan. He was the youngest. He owned a tavern, was an agent of Northland Realty. He served 3 terms on the city council, was candidate for sheriff in 1932 and 1934. He didn't win. He viewed politics differently than his brother. Dan was chairman of the Bayfield County Democratic Committee for many years, and in some ways it was his undoing. Dan chaired a meeting of the Dems in January in 1950. It was a hot meeting. I don't know what the issue was. Dan suffered a heart attack at the meeting and died.
Oh my.
Politics are rough, real rough. Dan wrote an interesting memoir about the life in Washburn as a young boy and the 3 gangs in Washburn that existed. The gangs were formed around geographic areas. East Side, Pollock Hill, Polish and Irish. The central area, Benderville, Norwegians, Swedes, and Germans. The west side, Slabtown, the French. He wrote that ethnic heritage was not the deciding factor, but rather where one lived. Boundaries were observed, and if you crossed into an opposing territory, a fight always occurred. Another picture of Uncle Will, the newspaper publisher. What a dapper guy, huh? Woo. And a picture of Aunt Alice Robinson, Will's wife. Will and Aunt Alice had 4 boys: Paul, William, also known as Bud, Theron, and Eldon, my cousins. Will died in 1932, and his son Paul took over as publisher, editor of the Washburn Times. Paul had the philosophy that the paper should show no partiality on national politics and take no sides on local issues. He believed that local news should contain no slander and no gossip. This meant deletion of such things as minor infractions of laws such as game and traffic violations. So if you're, well, they didn't have stop signs probably, but no traffic violations. He had an intense love of the community and fellow citizens, and was described as having a wholesome, clean, uplifting attitude toward life. He greeted all who stopped at the Times office with, "How did you do?" The Robinson newspaper legacy continued until Paul's death in 1969, 51 years. Paul's brothers, Theron, he moved to Milwaukee, where he worked as an attorney. Eldon, or LD, as he was referred to, worked for the DuPont Company and was its chief financial officer. He was an adventurer going on safari in Africa at age 82. and owning an island with his cousin, Bob Spears. A picture of my two aunts, Bessie Robinson Spears on the left, a friend in the middle, and Aunt Alice on the right. Bessie lived the longest of this second generation, dying in 1960. She was married to Dr. T.R. Spears, who practiced medicine in Washburn for over 50 years. T.R. and Bessie were parents of one child, Robert Maxwell. Cousin William Bud Robinson, an accomplished pianist, studied at Juilliard, taught piano, was a professor of music at Northland. Bud, together with Jan Moreland and Doug Moe and others, spearheaded creation of the walking trail that starts at West End Park. A quiet man who was a decorated Army veteran for his role in saving fellow soldiers in a raid on the 738th Battalion in Manila. He was a lover of nature. This is a plaque at the walking trail. He was a lover of nature and pottery. And Bud had this bowl commissioned. It reads, "Treasure and cherish our pathway by the lake. Be gentle to it, for it is probably more fragile than we." William Bud Robinson. What a legacy to leave. I'm back. It's my bar and my restaurant. Club Lido. You know it as Good Time. We, my husband David, and my children David and Sherry, and I lived upstairs. I worked at the post office and would come home, change clothes, and start cooking. It's reported that Cobalito started out as a speakeasy during Prohibition, and that it's haunted. Maybe. Part of my legacy and my family's legacy is Houghton Falls. David and I purchased Houghton Falls in the 50s. Recently, Sherry was able to work with the Nature Conservancy and others and was able to sell this wonderful property that is now available to all. And I'm sure that many of you have had an opportunity to walk that wonderful trail. The DuPont School. My cousin, Bob Spears, was school board president and was instrumental in obtaining financing for its construction. While I, Cleo, was always known for enjoying a party to its fullest, Gert Spears, cousin Bob's wife, often remarked if Bob had stayed out a bit too late or had a bit too much to drink, that's the Robinson blood. So I guess I was not that unusual. Colleen calls this a gaggle of Robinsons. It's a Memorial Park gathering. What I learned in preparing for this presentation, I learned that it is important to ask our elders about their lives, what they did, what dreams they had, their good and not so good times. I love this picture, and I so wish I would be able to name all of the people in the picture and tell you their stories. I can't, and that makes me a bit sad. The Times newspaper was a big part of the Robinson legacy. As early as 1896, the masthead of the Washburn Times in 1886 read, "Washburn, first, last, and all the time." I thought that would be the best way to end. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.